Okay, so we're going to work on filling out this worksheet that you guys have, and Miss Molzen is going to work with you guys on the numbers, but I wanted to walk you through how to do this worksheet with one of your poems or one of your videos. So we're going to look at this one, Beneath Two Skies by Merlin Hepworth, and this video doesn't deal with rational or irrational numbers per se, so we're going to just leave those two boxes empty. And we're going to move down to these other ones. And we're going to look for qualities of identity in this poem or in this video. And we're going to see how that identity changes when it's combined or added. And we're going to see how it, or how it stays the same. And we're going to see how it changes or stays the same when it's multiplied or added. So we're going to kind of think outside of the mathematical box when we're looking at this video, okay? And I have the words on the screen here, and you guys will have a copy of the words so you guys can look at the words together. So we're just going to go ahead and watch. We're going to play the video from the beginning.
It's not easy to be the right side of two worlds whose skies can never run.
So immediately, I have it slowed down than it normally is so that we can go through it a little easier, but immediately I hear that he's talking about two worlds. That sounds kind of math to me, and he doesn't want to be placed in boxes, so that seems like an identity, like we're trying to categorize. So those are something that I might pay attention to, maybe jot that down, or if you have the words in front of you when you're doing this, to go ahead and like highlight that, okay? I'm wondering, what do those mean? So we're going to pay attention. So I have a question. I wonder what he's talking about when he says tree branches, crooked tree branches. That didn't make any sense to me. And I'm not sure what he means by empty bottles of vodka, but I'm thinking there's some, there's an emotional issue there that he's going to maybe have some drinking later. And I don't understand what he means by New Mexico, the road that he would inevitably travel in New Mexico. So I want to pay attention to see if those kind of get clarified later. But those kind of things seem like they would have something to do with his experiences and may have something to do with his identity for sure. But I don't see how, I'm not sure how that would add or multiply. So I'm just going to keep thinking about that. But he does talk about his family. He says that he spends time with rosary beads. So that means maybe, I'm thinking he's maybe Catholic, or part of his family is Catholic. So he has some religious identity for sure. And he's thanking God for his family. So I think that part of his identity is in his family. So we're going to keep listening and see if any of these wonderings get answered. So right there, I think there's two different identities that his dad is dealing with. His dad, or he is dealing with. People have labeled his dad Gringo, and he is just labeling his dad. So already there's a kind of a dual relationship. So we can start thinking if there's dual relationship where there's two, then there might be some addition happening. So how is his identity changed when you add somebody else's viewpoint to it? How is his identity changed when other people are added to it? Like, he's adding his identity to his dad's identity or his dad's identity to his. So how does that change his own identity? So those are things that I'm thinking of, how this identity and addition and possibly multiplication work together. So I'm going to keep listening and see if that keeps happening.
I was the one when my distant cousins collected crooked trees and when it was catching in New Mexico because they thought we did.
So there's where the crooked branches comes in. Remember at the beginning, and I was like, oh, what are crooked branches all about? So his distant cousins, which one would think is family, right? When they are multiplied with him or combined with him, I'm not sure if this is multiplication or addition here. We're going to kind of examine. Does it change who he is? Do the crooked branches multiply who he is? Does it change his basicness? So we're going to keep listening here. So here he's talking about the middle passage and his feelings as he travels home after this beating. And I'm thinking maybe that kind of changes his identity. This experience definitely affects how he sees himself and how he relates to himself. So when this is multiplied in him, when these red canyons open up, as he says, the sticks formed red canyons upon my flesh. And I think that seems to multiply his understanding of his own identity, and it changes him. So then we're going to keep looking here and see what else.
Before I lost consciousness, I thought of my mother. That refused to beg from my skin jokes. One yes. The long of the I started climbing. My PET fell out. Burning. Everyone laughed.
So here's a thought. He goes through several identity ideas here. People are telling him what his name is. The son hates him. He has friends. People in his life, like his PE teacher, and everyone around him is laughing. So there's a lot of people that are affecting his identity right here. And I wonder if, again, I'm still thinking, how does this have to do with addition and multiplication? Because we're always going to go back to this idea because that's what we have to explain later in the week. How does this have anything to do with it? So I want to think, what is the difference between multiplication and addition? So an addition is just a little bit or changes a little bit, but multiplication makes it greater. So I'm wondering, are these additions to his identity, but the multiplication is something that that makes his identity bigger by several measures. And maybe that's a thought that can kind of keep tumbling around in our heads while we watch the rest of this. We're almost finished.
senses of this body, I told my parents nothing. Held it on the side. Told my mouth shut with clandestine middle fingers and mixed curfew so much.
I wonder what that means, clandestine middle fingers and missed curfew. So that's popped in my head. Oh, there's the empty bottle. There's the vodka that was at the beginning. So now we introduced the idea of the crooked tree branches and the empty bottles of vodka. And did they change who he was? Did they affect his identity? So those are questions. I mean, we came all the way around. So then we're going to keep going to see where we have these thoughts. What is the ballpoint pens? Did he talk about ballpoint pens at the beginning? Is that something? He didn't say ballpoint pens, but so what does that have to do? Because the crooked tree branches, he said something about. What does that mean, ballpoint pens? So there, I feel like he went full circle with the idea of filling in boxes with ink, so that he's talking about his identity. And then at the end, he says that my mother, and my father are both beautiful, and so am I. And so this seems like his mother and father have multiplied, and he's the result of that. And they multiply his identity in him. So it's, to me, that's how the math is kind of coming into this. So that's how you kind of go through and think aloud. And you might go through several times thinking over and over again where there's connections, what kind of thoughts come up, what the thoughts might mean, and how you might connect them to the ideas of math. So when you do that, then we're going to go back to this chart. And right here, under Beneath Two Skies from Merlin Hepworth, right, like I said, you're not going to do those first two boxes necessarily, but you're definitely going to want to fill in this box because it talks about what are the qualities of identity. And so you're gonna go through here. What are the qualities of identity that he talks about in his spoken word poem? What and use examples. You'll have the written text as well, so you use examples from the text, and you can just bullet point them. You don't have to do anything special. It would help if you number the stanzas, and that way you can kind of track where those come from. So write down the line that you see an identity and the stanza that it appears in, and then how does that identity change? And Miss Molzen has right here how that identity is changing from with the numbers, how it's rational and irrational numbers, and how the identity stays the same between rational and irrational numbers when they're added and multiplied. So I want you to try to think, do you see any kind of adding or multiplying happening in Merlin Hepworth's spoken word poem? Do you see any